Good morning. Happy Thursday to everybody. Hail to the year. We back. We back in this thing, man. And I'm really excited to be in front of you. Have a bunch of Longhorn topics for us to discuss. So hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you have not done that. Rodolfo, good to see you. Good to see my main man Court in the house too. Rodolfo is funny. I thought about you this morning. The real talk. I was dropping off my son and I was listening to the Outcast AT Aliens, some old school stuff, and I started thinking, I wonder if Rodolfo knows any of the stuff that's out here. I was just thinking, like, I wonder if you know about Goody Mob. I was thinking about you, Rodolfo. Does Rodolfo even know what Goody Mob is? And I'm like, no, you probably don't, right? So that's gonna make some people go back in the archives and start digging up some stuff. That's some cassette tape kind of music. But anyway, Rodolfo, good to see you. Good to see the biggest hater in the house, and good to see everybody else who's in here as well. I'm gonna do a quick retweet and then get out here and get some other things out here. But man, good morning to everybody, because we're gonna have a good discussion this morning as we start. What am I saying? Let me retweet this and then put a corny GIF to it, and then here we go. All right, here we go. Good morning to you, Barb's 10 as well. And so it came across as I was on social media the other day, just doing a couple of different things, trying to take my mind off of my has anybody else got their renewal for their your mortgage insurance and stuff, your home insurance. My home insurance is just gone up crazy, man. I'm about to sell this junk and buy a trailer park. Like, what in the world? No. But anyway, so I was going through some stuff, and and obviously it's the off season, which means it's silly season, which means that we're going to have the conversations about Arch. And guess what? If you're a Texas fan, you just got to get used to it. You just got to know this thing's going to happen. It's just going to be an inevitable conversation. It's an unavoidable conversation. He kind of is a big deal. Brand new commercial with the Uber. That's nice. I can see, the family was really intent on making sure Arch didn't really do a ton of NIL stuff until they knew he was going to be the starter. Well, go rumble, young man, rumble, because he is making that money right now. I ain't even mad at him. No, Barb's MC Breed is not on his list. He has no idea what a KRS-One is. If we just be no, Rodolfo doesn't know any of that. Rodolfo thinks Drake is probably the GOAT. He's the best rapper of all time. What are you talking about? Give me a hug. Give me a hug. Give me a hug. Anyway, so as I was going through something, I saw an interesting list. We're going to talk about a couple different topics today, by the way. And I saw a really interesting list. And I was like, wow, this is an interesting topic of conversation. Good morning to you, Mike Torres. Austin FC versus Colorado coming up this weekend. I won't be there, but my kids will. You'll see both of them being crazy out there. And so I saw a list, and it really begged the question. But I think as we have the Arch Manning conversation, we had the Arch Manning conversation. I'm trying to focus. I'm not going to look at the chat. But we're having the Arch Manning conversation, right? I'm of the probably a little bit more conservative expectations for Arch, because I almost don't want to place him up here on this pedestal, and then for some reason he shows that he's actually kind of a third-year quarterback in his first year as a full starter and has the mistakes that I believe he's going to have. I don't think he's going to be superhuman at all times. I don't want to build it up and then all of a sudden we're tearing this guy down. That's what we do in society, right? It's, build them up and tear people down. You see that a lot in celebrities, right? So I'm like, I want to build this guy up, and I just want him to go out there and make the mistakes, so on and so forth. But I saw something, and it's really, and it was on On3. It was on their X account and Twitter account. I don't know, Twitter account. And so and I want to kind of get a conversation with you guys about this and what you guys think. And so just for the record, I know a lot of people that work at On3. Nothing but respect for those guys and what they do over there. Andy Staples is a lifelong friend of mine. Joe Cook, I like him a lot. Extremely hard worker. Justin Wells is a good dude. Shout out to him and his son AJ. So nothing but love for all those guys. So it's not what the conversation we're going to have. Just so we're clear, it's not some sort of like rival website attacking. I don't do all that. I don't. That's that. My life is. I just got way too many things in life to do than to do that. But I wanted to have a conversation based off of something that they put out there. So let's get into it and start to having a conversation about what you guys kind of think about what we saw. So we start thinking about the top quarterbacks going into the 2025 season. And the question that they posed out there that I thought was a really interesting one, by the way, as far as, well, where would Arch rank in the top 25? By the way, I think I'm giving this wrong credit. It's actually with CB. Yeah, here we go. Why didn't he put CBS? This is for CBS Sports. Okay, so CBS Sports. Well, now I apologize. Well, I don't really have a lot of friends over there if it's CBS Sports 24/7. I thought it was on 3. My bad. It was CBS Sports. Eric Henry. There you go. I got one. There's one. There you go. That's about it. The list gets short after that. They put out their college QB power rankings, and I thought it was interesting where they had guys ranked. And they put Arch at that number 1 spot, which was very fascinating to me. Good morning, Stephanie. Followed by Ketch's favorite quarterback, Cade Klubnik. They followed by Carson Beck at that number 3 spot, which is really interesting. I guess you can make an argument for that. Drew Aller from Penn State at number 4. Sam Levitt at number 5. So and then Garrett and then Garrett at number 6. And Bill, I think you can make a strong case that Garrett could be ranked a little bit higher than what he is, as far as what the expectations are. Nonoris Sellers from USC at number 7. Sawyer Robertson from Baylor at 8. Rocco Beck, Anthony Beck's son. You're going to say to yourself, who the hell is Anthony Beck? It's funny. It's just a small world. So when I was in Tampa as an NFL writer, which now seems like years ago at this point, there was a tight end there by the name of Anthony Beck, and he and I had a great relationship. I honestly had a great relationship with most players that I covered, to be quite honest with you, except the Ndamukong Suh. He'd probably be the other guy I didn't really have a good relationship with. One day on a Friday when I have some drinks, I'll tell you that story. But we did not get along. I thought he was going to try to break me in the locker room one time, but I was bracing myself for that hit, because I just said one hit and I'm rich. So I just like, you just got to stomach it, right? He didn't hit me, so here I am. I'm still working. And then DJ Lagway. So Rocco Beck. Oh, I got sidetracked from my story. So Rocco Beck. So that's his son is Anthony Beck's son is Rocco Beck. And I ran into them like at a game just several years ago. And and we were talking, and like, yeah, I was like, oh, your son is actually the quarterback here. So it showed how old I was getting. I struggled with this list a little bit, because Arch Manning has only had 2 starts, and whatever we think he is, if we just judge it off of what has happened in the last season and not just putting in the guesswork, then I don't know how you can put Arch at number 1, right? I feel like that's a little bit tougher. Now, I can hear argument for Cade Klubnik as the number 1 guy. Sure about Carson Beck, but if I'm correct, Carson Beck had a boatload of interceptions last year. Am I tripping when I say that? Let me look up Carson Beck's stats real quick. I feel like his interceptions were pretty damn high. Am I wrong on that? Well, Let me go. Let me go right here. Let me click on this. Yeah, I'm not tripping. He had 12 interceptions last year. I know I'm not. I knew I wasn't tripping. He had 28 touchdowns. My goodness. He had 28 touchdowns and 12 interceptions last season. Yeah, I remember watching games. I think we all watched games with Carson Beck last year. And you said to yourself, like, my God, I mean, it was on the Texas game, and he damn near tried to give that one away. And then the Alabama game, he threw 3 interceptions as well. Florida, he threw 3 interceptions. I mean, it was just crazy how they still were able to win a lot of those games outside of the Alabama game, which it was a kind of a train wreck for him. But okay, wherever they are, Sam Levitt, we all know what he can do. Aller, I feel like Garrett should be a little bit higher, though, be quite honest with you. And I think at the end of the day, DJ Lagway is probably the guy on this list that they're really, really sleeping on. Because I think we know Lagway was injured, for a lot of last year, right? When Florida came in here, I mean, weren't they just taking guys off the street to see who could be their quarterback at that time? But I think we expect Lagway to be a little bit better. So it's interesting how it's interesting how people compose lists, right? And I'm having a conversation. I'm not knocking anyone at CBS Sports or 24/7. It's interesting how that you could project Arch based off of 2 starts, but then there's other guys who've actually kind of proven themselves a little bit, and then you get ranked a little bit ahead of them. I agree with you, Texas guy, too. I think Lagway is the guy that if we see him healthy, he could be that dude. You guys know I was talking to Dash yesterday, and I had on the show. If you didn't miss, if you missed him, that's my guy from Rivals in Georgia, and he is the one that says like, "Hey, I think Lagway could be special. I think he could have a really good season." And so, here's this list here, which I find an interest in us now. So as I went through that, for me, Arch at number 1, I can't do it. Just can't do it right now. I need more time on him. And I need him to go through the growing pains and development pains and all these kind of things. And it's funny because after I do this list, I'm going to show you another list, and I'm going to tell you the guys something that's actually kind of funny. At least I think it's going to be funny. And so there's that list. Now let's go to another one that I saw, and my producer was able to put this one together. Now this one was from PFF, and this one I thought was a little bit interesting. And I'll be honest with you, if I had to choose a list that I liked more, I probably like this one a little bit more. So this one has Klubnik as number 1, which I'm totally okay with. Sam Levitt, they have him at number 2. I'm okay with that. Carson Beck stays at the number 3 spot. Aller at 4. They move Garrett up to 5. I can make an argument that he can be at that 4th spot, but that's okay. But they put Arch at 6, and they put Lagway at 7. Diego Pavia gets some love at 8. We got Nico from Tennessee at the number 9 spot, and then they got Kevin Jennings from SMU there as well. Now it's interesting because let me explain why some interesting ones. Let me see what PFF said about Arch Manning. And they explained the good part about this. They also wrote an article, so I thought that was kind of good, kind of corresponding, kind of backing up the thought process. They said Manning's placement on this list was the hardest to figure out, even though he's only started 3 games in his career, and all against bad competition. UTSA, Loudon Road, Mississippi State. That's actually incorrect. He did not start against UTSA. He came in after Quinn got injured. So he started against Louisiana Monroe and Mississippi State. But nonetheless, the rising redshirt sophomore is still the betting favorite to take home the Heisman Trophy, which is crazy. They gave him an 88.1 PFF overall grade in 2024, ranked 13th among FBS quarterbacks who played at least 200 snaps, and he ranked 16th in both big-time throw rate, turnover-worthy play rate. Man is a much better athlete than either of his legendary uncles, Peyton and Eli. which always is so crazy when they mention him. Like, his dad is Cooper. Yes, he's a better athlete because his dad is Cooper Manning, who was a receiver in college football. And the only reason his whole career got derailed because of an injury. But if you know anything about Cooper, you know Cooper was a baller. Cooper was a freaking baller. Like that. Anyway, so it's so funny when they just always throw out Eli and Peyton. They're like, he's more athletic than his uncles. Yes, because do you know what genes are? Do you guys follow what genes are? Dad? Man. Anyway, it's entirely possible, if not probable, that number 6 will look far too low for Manning at the conclusion of next season. But the former top overall recruit in 2023, in it for now, and is due to have a top 5 proven resume. So they have a Manning at number 6. Again, this list for me, again, if I have to start thinking about, okay, where am I going to rank Arch? If I got to put him on a list, then I put him on 6. I still think Lagway is a guy that you can't sleep on by any stretch of the imagination. And of course, the LSU quarterback is someone who's scary. And give Nico some love. Nico at number 9 is fine. I think he's had his ups and downs. Really big year for Klubnik, though. I think the expectations for him are going to be extremely high, obviously, going into this one. And, I think I've told you guys this before, but and Benji, I like this list a little bit better. It's interesting because there is a thought process, and I think I told you guys this, but I'll tell you this again. There is a thought process that, especially as relates to Arch, that there needs to be a certain amount of starts that he needs to have before he's ready for the NFL. And they actually put it down as, I believe that number is 30. I'm looking through here. So there's a belief that you need to have 30 starts. And this is kind of some insight from like Manning camp stuff, right? That 30 starts is really the number that you need in order to be NFL ready, right? And so you kind of go through that. And again, like Mitch Trubisky might be the exception to the rule, but overall, so they almost are looking at this. By the way, when I told you I had something funny to say, I asked somebody in that camp where I showed them this list because I was thinking about, doing this for a show topic this morning. And so I asked them about this list, and it's so funny. The first message I received back was, all this stuff is just hot air. And I asked, so what do you guys think about this like PFF list? Because I think this one might be a little bit more accurate. And they go, we spend 0 time absorbing any of this rat poison. That kind of ended the conversation. I was like, all right, grand opening, grand closing. My bad. I get it. That's fine. So anyway, so there's this thought process that, you need to have at least 30 in the NFL. So it's almost like they view it as a 2-year journey for Arch within his development, a 2-year journey of, playing this year, potentially next year. However, with the exception of if he goes balls out, all those kind of things, then it is what it is. But the thing that's kind of been communicated to me as relates to Arch has been, at the end of the day, they view it as being a professional is work. It's a job. And you should be a kid and enjoy it as long as possible. And, and many of you in here, good morning to you, Stark After Dark. Many of you in here are parents, right? And it's it's fascinating to me because as I've gotten older, I've kind of changed my thought process, right? I used to think to myself, okay, when I have kids and they turn 18, they need to get the hell out the house, right? And get going, right? And get going what you need to do. And it's interesting because if you ever travel internationally, they don't subscribe to that theory in other countries. In other countries, people like stay and the kids stay for like a long time to their 20s and stuff like that. They save, they build up money, and so on and so forth, right? And then as I started seeing that, I was like, oh, you know what? Why the hell am I kicking an 18-year-old out the house and throwing him out there into a world of like debt? And you have to, you gotta have a boss that's gonna kick your ass every day, and you're gonna have like these reviews and this. And I'm like, nah, you can chill for a while. Like you got plenty of time to do that. And their thought process is, you know what? He's got time before he has to worry about being this adult that has to pay bills and all these other kind of things. And being a pro is like, college is fun. Enjoy college, enjoy that, because when you get to the pros, ask Eli more than anybody else. Ask Eli how much fun it was those first few years as a pro. Ain't much fun, especially when you get drafted by a crappy team, right? And then ask Peyton, who was throwing interceptions after interceptions after interception, who was having a ton of fun in Tennessee, except when he played Florida, but having a ton of fun in Tennessee. And then the next thing you know, he gets into the NFL in Indianapolis, and his rookie year was just atrocious. And ask how everybody just thought how horrible he was. And then it's like, oh, you can't win a Super Bowl after Indianapolis and all this, so that their whole family is trained to the point that, man, we need this young man to stay here. We need this young man to have some fun. We need this young man to just grow and develop. And so Benji says, I don't think my girls are ready for the real world. No, I mean, when you think about it, my mom was telling me to get my ass out the house. And in hindsight, I'm like, Mom, you should let me stay. Why? I had to get a lease and all these other kind of stuff. Like, man, I don't need all that. So anyway, so it's interesting, these lists, and there's going to be more lists that come out, right? But I think if I had to do a top list, it's interesting. At some point, I want to rank like my SEC quarterbacks. I'm just going to rank there. I'll probably have him in my top 5, but I'm probably going to take more of a wait and see approach. And again, I feel like everyone in there, like behind the scenes and everything like that, they're like, look, we feel good. I heard about him. It's funny. I heard a story about Arch. I think it was like 2 weeks ago. It was 2 weeks ago. I may have mentioned it here. I don't know. I do so many shows. I talk to so many people, but it was during winter conditioning, and there was a feeling behind the scenes that, okay, we need to really push Arch to get a little bit more out of him. And so they decided that in winter conditioning that they were going to push him. And then the quote that was given to me is like, we're going to push him beyond his comfort zone. And it wasn't necessarily because they felt like he was slacking in any particular way. It was kind of just the opposite. They said, he's doing so well, but they want to make sure that he didn't get too comfortable with his performance and get too comfortable with anything. So it's like, all right, it's time to push you and stretch you. And I was told that they did push him, they did stretch him, they made these workouts for him a little bit harder. Like, you know how coaches are. Y'all know, if you played sports on any level, you know how coaches can be. And then they stretched him. They said, performed well. They was really excited about it. And as he continues to go on and grow and be a leader, so on and so forth. But the good thing about that is that they've always felt like he's always been humble about things. They don't have to worry about anything to that effect. So anyway, that was that list I wanted to talk about. I wanted to get that one done. There was another thing that this one I know for sure was an On3 thing. And it's interesting because I had the conversation with Dash about this yesterday. And On3 aggregated this thing, so I'll give them the credit. It was Sam Gillenwater. Hopefully I said your name right, Sam. Thank you for aggregating this to make my life easier for a conversational topic. The SEC was talking about the potential of a 9-game schedule And Sankey was recently on. I'm just going to put the article up. I'll make it easier. And again, somebody might say, well, why are you putting on somebody's, well, first and foremost, where is it? Okay, here we go. Why are you putting up something from like another publication? I'm like, well, because life is not that deep. It just isn't. It's not like all of a sudden, like you guys are going to say, oh my God, well, I'm just never going to read. How the hell do I get rid of this Geico ad? Damn it. All right, well, it's going to be really hard. Can you say, okay, there you go. Save. How do I get rid of this crap? Is there a way to get rid of this? No, I don't know how to do it. All right, well, I can't do an ad blocker because when I put the ad blocker on, it didn't work. So anyway, basically the headline was, Sankey advocates for a 9-game schedule in the SEC and explains it. And essentially that when he was on Feinbaum, he basically talked about wanting to have a 9-game schedule. And well, while I thought this was going to be a good idea, the problem is, okay, here you go. I don't know how to get this ad out. He said I don't think it's a secret that we have to figure out 2026. Much of the discussion is about should we play 8 or 9 games. That does transition into an analysis of college football playoff, looking at what happened in the first year of the 12-team playoff. Which if he looked at it, he would know and remember that no one was rewarded for that. And so basically I go to the quote here, if we could get it up there, right? It's going to be right here. A decision of our schedule as relates to the 2026 season. So we resolve 2025. That's an 8-game schedule. I've said repeatedly, we wanted to actually go 3 years of a 16-team, 8-game kind of single division, if you will, under a single format. And so he goes, this is our first opportunity for our head coaches and our athletic directors. Damn, I can't read. To gather in a room, just look back and talk about what happened. It says, and now that took place the week before the college football playoff management committee meeting, where I learned a lot. You see some changes in some of the non-conference scheduling that take place in them. And so eventually what he kind of says in here is that he kind of admits that it could be something that is a little bit of a detriment, but that at the end of the day, one of the things that may need to happen if you want to apply for American Express card is that you may need to start scheduling softer. If they go to a 9-game schedule, you might need to be scheduling kind of softer non-conference opponents in order to make this thing happen. I think he's hoping from how the article kind of was outlining, I think the hope is that if they go to 9 games, that somehow, some way, the conference is going to, the committee is going to reward everybody. But at the end of the day, that I don't know if that's to be true. I am just going to be the person that says that I think that they're doing themselves a disservice. I'm going to continue to say that because if the committee is not going to take strength of schedule into account when they start making their selections, I would think that having Alabama sitting out and Ole Miss sitting out, even though you look at strength of schedule, you would tell yourself you're doing yourself a disservice by adding in another game, which is another potential loss. And then you're going to have all these other teams playing in the easier schedule. But nonetheless, that seems to be where the conference is heading. That seems to be what they're going to do. So because of that, okay, we will absolutely see what happens with that. What y'all arguing about, by the way? What y'all arguing about in here? Benji says maybe a post-spring practice top 10 list. I could definitely do that. I can definitely do something like that. Listen, I got nothing but time in the off season. So there is, I got nothing but time of that. And then so basically Sankey is saying this schedule FCS schools twice and play a lower level power for. Yes, that's basically what he's saying. That's basically what he's saying. He's basically saying, look, at the end of the day, what Texas wants to do by scheduling your Ohio States or your Michigans or your Notre Dames or any of that stuff, hey, let's just go to 9 games and then you guys just schedule soft competition in the non-conference stuff. And I just don't think that's the winning formula. Why are you going to go hard when again there's no reward for that? So, but yes, he's basically saying we're going to go to 9, probably in 2026. Go to 9 conference games, and then after that, then everybody just schedule cupcakes. And I don't think that's the winning formula, but nonetheless, that's where he's going to go. I want to do one more thing. It's a little bit old, not a little bit, but I want to. There's a couple that I hadn't addressed it, but I want to just kind of real quick. Yeah, I know y'all saw what like Cam Newton said about Sark and NIL and all these kind of things. I want to make sure I want to play it, and maybe I get a copyright pop. So if you guys see it on the replay and you're like, oh, well, what the hell just happened here? I want to replay it because I've had a lot of people behind the scenes talk to me about this and kind of be a little offended by it, and so they gave us some things, and so I'm gonna let's just hear what our guy had to say, and I say our guy, and then kind of.
You said that you wanted to have a culture of vulnerability.
Yeah.
That pinged my interest when I was doing my research. What does that mean, and why has that been so effective?
Well, I think you got to remember, I deal with 18 to 22-year-old guys, okay? Probably the least vulnerable group that if you could pick out 18 to 22-year-old men, young men that are trying to figure out who they are, right? And they're this transition of moving away from home, finding out who they are in a world of social media where it's like, put everything out there that's to make myself look as good as I can look. But
look, bro, look. Coach Sarkisian, I'm cool. They're like all that shit, cool. Yeah. Building the culture does take time, but having access to the boosters attached to University of Texas also helps. Like, come on, dog. Come on, bro. Come on. Any great coach knows in order for me to be labeled a great coach, I need
players.
Great players.
Great players at that.
And nowadays, these players are a great expense. Coach Steve, boy, man, respectfully, what you've been able to do at Texas has been admirable. So much so that I'm a fan of not only you, your wife. She's fly as fuck.
By the way, you can't say I respect somebody and then say that about someone's wife. Just so we clear. Just so we're clear. It's just so we are clear. You can't say I respect you and then do that about the wife. The one thing is interesting. I have good relationships with a lot of former players, right? And one of the guys called me this week, and he said he reminded me that there's 3 things of a locker room code in the NFL. You don't talk about the wives, you don't talk about the children, and you don't talk about anybody else's money. He said that's 3 things. You stay out my pockets, you don't talk about the wife, you don't talk about the kids. So you can't. That of anything he said, that might be probably the most offensive part of what he said. I'll be quite honest with you. That part was definitely a disrespect. We'll finish the rest though.
All right. Matthew McConaughey, I get it. One of my
I do like his jersey
heroes
though.
And still a person who I look up still to this day. Vince Young. Yes, I get it. But my man, understand that the only way that you're able to assemble those rosters is it's about building a culture, but it's also about spending that band to make them come.
Okay, he was trying to do the bands and make them dance kind of thing. But yeah, it sounded weird. The thing is, so the money part of it, and this is where the people behind the scenes were talking to me about it. Listen, we do live in the NIL era. Let's not be ridiculous, right? But they'll tell you that they offered DeCorian probably more money than he received at Oregon, but that didn't move him. They will tell you that Texas A&M had a number one recruiting class that they paid for. What did that yield them? And that at the end of the day, they're not spending and buying every single person that's out there, right? It's just not how this works. There is a quote unquote salary cap in place. And so there's a couple of things. First and foremost, if you look back on recruiting for the last few years, I looked this up so we're clear, okay? That I want to say, because in 2018, Texas had, according to Rivals, the number 4 ranked recruiting class. In 2019, Rivals said Texas had the 4th ranked recruiting class, right? So we know Texas has always been able to recruit. Tom Herman recruited pretty well. Now, from a statistical standpoint, right? We know, we look back at a 2019 class, that was like an abomination, right? But at the end of the day, Texas has always recruited well. But the thing that Texas has not been able to do is, at a high level, is actually develop talent, right? And so what you've seen Texas be able to do, especially under Sarkisian, is been able to develop talent. And what they point out to me is only when Texas started to win did you see Texas actually have a number 1 recruiting class. But prior to that, Texas didn't get a number 1 recruiting class. And again, it's not based off of just money. Money's there. Everybody's spending money. Like, that's not ridiculous. It's not like Texas is spending more than everybody else. That's not that 100% true. But at the end of the day, when you start talking about talent development, Trevor Gooseby is a great example, right? We bring him up a lot. Texas wasn't money whipping him and getting him to be where he's at, but they were able to develop him, right? Michael Taft. Texas didn't money whip him, but they were able to develop him and he becomes kind of an elite talent, right? You can go through a Jonathan Brooks of a year or two ago, right? It wasn't they money whipped him. They developed him, and look at what he became. Like, we can go to last year, Alfred Collins, Vernon Broughton, right? Did Texas buy these guys? They didn't buy these guys, but they developed them into elite guys. Did they buy Barron Sorrell? They didn't buy Barron Sorrell, but he developed into an elite person, right? Look, all those guys who are going to the combine, right? These are guys who were developed. So it's so easy to just discount what they're doing as a staff and say, oh, well, they just spend a lot of money. No, they have some actually kick-ass coaches who are getting the most out of their talent and developing guys into elite players. Jordan Whittington wasn't bought, but he was developed into an elite player, right? So all these things that even Arch Manning wasn't even as great as Arch is. Like, Arch wasn't bought. They didn't buy Arch. Arch was coming here after a 5-7 season. So it wasn't about the money. It was more about, I'm going to come here under Steve Sarkisian and get developed. So I think it's really easy from the outside, you see this often, for people to say like, oh, well, Texas just spends a lot of money. I think that's a very generic view. But if you kind of peel back the layers of the onion and you're actually able to see it, there's more about this program. What they're able to do is develop guys. Jahdae Barron got developed. Jahdae Barron wasn't bought or purchased. I remember Jahdae when, there was a few years ago when Oregon wanted him. And I mean, he got an NIL deal that was, I think it was like eventually like 200, something like that. Like, it wasn't anything crazy, right? So, and Texas isn't having guys that they're like, oh, this guy's making 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, and like the Carson Beck numbers, he's spending $7 million and all these kind of things. Like, no, that's not what's happening. That's not what's happening. Dude, Texas will pay an NIL, sure. Like every school pays an NIL. But when you look at the guys who are being developed across the board here, to say that it's just NIL is just way too simplistic of a view, and it kind of negates a little bit of what they've been able to do. So it was interesting to hear it. It's a conversation, but it's unfortunate. It's inaccurate. What he said. Still much respect for him and what he does, but just know, like, when you go down the list of guys, sure, there's going to be some guys who you get. But I remember even like the Decorian Moore thing. I remember someone was saying to me, for the price of one Decorian Moore, we can get 2 other really good receivers. You know, those 2 good receivers were Khalil Lockett, Jamie French. So it's not, it's not. So it wasn't like bam, Decorian Moore, bam, Michael Fasusi, right? Bam on everybody else, right? It was just like, no, we're not going to do that. So anyway, I just had to say that, and I felt like maybe some of the people behind the scenes wanted that out there as well, and so I was more than willing to share that message and pass that along. Texas is not only Texas spends an NIL, but they're not buying championships. As Texas A&M, that's not the easiest thing to do. You got to develop, and that's the thing that that Texas does at a very good and a very, very high rate. Listen, tomorrow, Friday's show, if Spectrum doesn't do me wrong, I got that fire for y'all coming tomorrow. I got that gasoline coming for y'all tomorrow. I got that loud coming for you tomorrow. I got some good stuff for you tomorrow. You got it. You're gonna want to see this. I'm excited, man. I'm gonna break down some stuff that's from behind the scenes. That is, when you guys get the chance to go behind the curtain, you're gonna learn a lot. You're really gonna. I think you're gonna really enjoy tomorrow's show. So make sure that if you watch it on replay, make sure if you can't watch it live, check it out on replay, check it out while you're driving the car, whatever the case is. I've got that thing coming for you tomorrow that is just going to debunk a lot of myths and a lot of inaccuracies that have been said, and y'all going to enjoy it. I'm promising you, y'all going to enjoy it. You're going to be like, damn, you did some damn good I got it coming. I got that fire for y'all tomorrow, right? So get ready. It's gonna blow some things away, and I'll be honest with you, it's gonna blow some stuff away that people have said on this channel and other shows. Yeah, I'm coming for them too. I'm coming for all of them. I got you coming tomorrow. Will stand here by himself, 10 toes down, and give you some good stuff. So y'all make sure y'all check that out tomorrow. Make sure you go out and have a good day. Have a fantastic Thursday. Do something special for yourself. I always say, live each day like it's your last. One day it will be. I saw something, a headline about an 18-year-old. I think he was at Pitt. That got into a car accident and died. Man, life is short, y'all. Life is short. So go out there, enjoy your life, do something special, love on yourself, and love on somebody else. All right, y'all. Y'all take care.